Hello my friends, and welcome to the island of Bleakmoor. If you're new to my channel, my name is Rachel, and today we are going to be touring my first ever completed winter island, a dark, gloomy Dickensian winter island named Bleakmoor. Now before we begin the tour, be sure to subscribe to the channel if you're not yet subscribed, and let's go ahead and take a look at our map and meet our villagers. Here is the island map, and as you can see, it's a mixture of natural and structured areas, with the bulk of the town of Bleakmoor wrapping around resident services. We of course have my island rep, whose home has been converted into an inn and a tavern, and as for my villagers, we have Fang, Lionel, Marshall, 𝒷𝓊𝓃𝓃𝓎, Greta, Olivia, Pecan, Chops, and Eric. Of course, I have my dream address listed at the bottom of the screen. If you would like to come tour alongside me, I would love to have you come and visit Bleakmoor. Alright, so of course we have to start with our island entrance. Coming off of the airport, we have this lovely natural landscape right here, and this entire entrance was inspired by the Chronicles of Narnia. You can see here from this little lamppost that I have, it's supposed to be the lamppost that you first see in the movie when the kids come in contact with tumnus, and I don't know why it was so inspired by the Chronicles of Narnia, but it just made a lot of sense for this island to be themed after it. And it was also very inspired by a picture on Pinterest by Horrible Gaming. I will put the picture here on screen now for you guys. I really wanted to showcase that you're able to take a inspiration picture and change the season that the picture is set in to fit whatever season you're using in Animal Crossing, and that way you can have more inspiration options for your own island when you go to decorate. Now we are going to be moving up this little side incline over here, and that's going to lead us to our secondary entrance. We have Greta here who is going to get in my way. I feel so sorry for pushing her out of the way. But this is the secondary entrance that we have on the island. So for anyone who is new to the channel, or this is your first time seeing Bleakmoor, Bleakmoor is set in like 90% on the second tier. I built most of the island on the second cliff, so it was kind of imperative to create another entrance area, and this is what I would consider to be the more formal entrance. Now we're actually going to take this little pathway down here, and we have these vines set up to help give you access to the beach. So I'm just going to slide down here, and we're going to take a look at my beaches. Now all of my beaches in this island are decorated, and this was actually the first spot that I decorated on the island when I was putting everything together. I knew for sure that I wanted to have wheat fields cover the majority of my beaches to kind of act as like seagrass or sea oats, and I love how this looks. I think it's so spooky, and everything just looks so like hollow and desolate, which is exactly what I was wanting. Alright, so we are back up top. Here is a cute little 𝒷𝓊𝓃𝓃𝓎 chasing a snowflake. I love it so much. He is one of my favorite villagers, and I was so happy to fit him on this island. I feel like he fits perfectly in with the natural landscape that we have going on here. But we are actually going to take this little bridge over to the left here, and we are going to go visit the abandoned turnip farm that I built. Now, if you have seen my speed builds for this island, this is something that I built but have recently renovated. It originally only had one floor, but I did decide to go through and add a second floor. If you're new to the channel, I will also be sure to link my playlist down below featuring all the speed builds for the island. And I think this spot is so cool. I love this little build. I had no idea what I was going to put there, and so it was nice to be able to just kind of give myself the ability to go wild and just decorate anything, and that's where that build came from. And down here we have just a very filled in forest. I wanted to create a great separation of space between the turnip farm and the beach down below, so that's why I decided to just fill this in as much as I could. You can technically come and peek around from the side here, but when you're actually at the turnip farm, you can't see anything, and that was my main intention. I really wanted to create these separations of space to make everything look a bit more spooky and closed in and secluded. Now we are going to take this little side path up here, and this is one of those spots that I did not feature on a speed build. This is just a little transition area, and we are going to head down this incline to go actually investigate the beach. So here we are at the sauna house or hot spring or whatever you want to call it, and this is a build that I love so much. I don't know what it was about this island, but I was able to decorate the beaches so easily, and I felt really inspired to decorate the beaches. This is one spot that I love because there's so much texture and movement going on with all the different items, and I played around a lot with making some different faux buildings and playing with the ways that you can actually build structures in the game. And I'm really proud of how that little bonfire fuel house turned out. I don't know how to describe it, but I like to think that that bonfire is what is heating up all of these little bathtubs. Now I also have the actual sauna house building over here, and this was such a fun way to fill out this rocky outcropping. I feel like so often we like to fill our beaches with laundry areas, and this kind of felt like my interpretation of a little laundry area, but I feel like it's just this like such a beautiful spot. I love how this looks so much. And now we are going to take this little pathway down here, and we're gonna head to the other part of my beach. Now I just have some filler. Like I said, I used a lot of wheat fields, and down here is where my museum is actually located. And this is probably hands down my favorite location in the entire island. I love this spot so much. It was my first time ever being able to keep Blathers' tent as a tent, and I feel like it just makes everything look so magical, and I really love the effect that it gives. I was able to go through and use elements that you can see in the actual tent, like this rope fencing, and doing it down here as well, including a lot of barrels and fish items just to really make everything come together. And I can't say it enough how much I love this little spot. I think it looks seriously so cool. Off to the dock here, I have a lighthouse and the adjacent lightkeeper's house that a lighthouse worker would stay in, and I also love how this area looks. I think the lighthouse at night looks so magical. But this is this area down here. You of course can see we have the forest up above, and it just makes everything look so dense and dark and imposing. I think it looks so cool. But I will see you in just a moment back up top of the incline. Now you can get a little bit of a sneak peek of the town of bleakmoor. That's actually Olivia's house over across the river. We will be getting there shortly. We are actually going to continue taking this little path, and this area we are going to take up to the last build that you saw on the island, which was Eric's lumberyard and carpenter cottage. So heading up this way, we have this little hidden pathway and just so much foliage going on. I really tried to go through and do as much terraforming as I could. I think this area just turned out so cool and so magical. I am just like really blown away at how this island actually turned out. I'm really proud of it. It was so out of my comfort zone for what I am used to building, but I think that the effect is exactly what I wanted it to be. It's very dark and gloomy, and it just looks like the type of place that just embodies the feeling of cold winters where, you know, maybe there isn't as much food. It's very harsh living, and I am really proud that I was able to pull off this darker aesthetic in Animal Crossing. This was one of those builds that I knew I wanted to do ever since putting the island together. I had on my mood board that I wanted to have a lumberyard, and I mentioned in my speed build video that I feel like lumberyards in Animal Crossing, when people do tree farms, it's very Christmas oriented, so I wanted this to be a darker version and kind of geared away from the Christmas theme, because this isn't supposed to be a Christmas themed island. Now we are going to take this little incline and head down here. You can see that I have a little rocky setup going on along the beaches, and this is just to really help it feel integrated with the rest of the rock formations that we have along the beaches. And heading up here, we have another little fishing camp that kind of mirrors the one that we have at the end of the beach. And this is an area that I used to try to integrate my campsite. And I probably should have loaded in a campsite villager before walking you guys through the island, so that way there could be a tent right there. But I love this spot too. I feel like I'm just going to end up saying that this entire time. But I'm just so proud of how these beaches turned out, because beaches are notoriously so difficult to build in game. So to be able to have these beaches decorated in a way that I'm proud of just makes me so happy, and I love it so much. There was so much different layering going on here with different items that I didn't know if I was going to be able to layer because of how awkward the dimensions can be on the beach. But this just goes to show that the beaches are places that shouldn't be forgotten, but instead celebrated. Now, instead of heading off to the right over here, we're going to go back up to Eric's house because I have a surprise for you guys. There are lots of things on this island that I did not include in speed builds because I wanted them to be a bit of a secret for you. So I'm going to meet you back up at Eric's house and show you something that I have been waiting to show you for so long. Alright, so we are back at Eric's house, and we are going to take this little side path over here and climb up this vine and follow this other dirt path. If you're going to be visiting Bleakmoor, just keep in mind that all of the vines that have dirt paths connecting to them are ones that I put there for you to use to climb up. So if you climb up this one, you can find this little hidden area back here. Now here we have the lookout for the town of Bleakmoor. Now of course Bleakmoor has the word moor in the title, and that's because this is an island that is supposed to be very heavily inspired by moorlands that you can find usually in Britain in the British Isles. And if you are unfamiliar with what a moor is, it's pretty much just a giant patch of uncultivated land that houses a lot of coarse grasses and things like heather, and I can put a picture here on screen to show you guys, but I really wanted to bring across that dark and gloomy and empty aesthetic, especially on large patches of the island. And this lookout is supposed to be an area that you can kind of look out across and just see this grass going on for miles. Now, of course, the island does end toward the back, so this was my way to try and mitigate the hard stop to the island itself, and I'm really proud of how this area turned out. It's kind of hard to see from this angle, but you can see that I actually went through and included little spots for some water, because sometimes these areas can be a bit more of a bog or a bit muggy, so I decided to add some different little spots with water. This also helped to keep me from using too many wheat fields. I think across this entire island I used probably around like 2,000 wheat fields, maybe more. So yeah, that was really fun, but I really hope that you guys like this area. I would love to hear your thoughts on how you feel the moorland turned out, but now we are going to head back to our entrance yet again. Alright, so we are back at the entrance and 𝒷𝓊𝓃𝓃𝓎 and 𝒷𝓊𝓃𝓃𝓎 are just hanging out, which is so cute because in my storyline for this island, 𝒷𝓊𝓃𝓃𝓎 and 𝒷𝓃𝓃𝓎 are really good friends. But we are going to actually take this dirt path, and instead we are not going to take this brick path just yet because I want to take you guys into the town of Bleakmoor. So if we push past 𝒷𝓊𝓃𝓃𝓎 really quickly, you can see that we have some filler, and this is another one of those areas that I didn't necessarily include in a speed build. And that was just because I filled in a lot of trees in areas, and it was very difficult to go through and try and record that type of footage. So I just went through right here, and as you can see, I filled in this whole back area, and that's because past this little forest is the town of Bleakmoor, and I really wanted some very heavy separation of space, and planting a lot of trees can be very difficult to record in because your person gets covered up with trees very quickly, but this is one of those spots that I did not include in a speed build. Now, if we take this little dirt path, we can actually go into the town of Bleakmoor and head through this little archway, and this is where the actual town begins. We can go down this little incline right here and see that we have this beautiful sunken resident services area. I decided to go through and just cover the entire resident services with medieval walls just to make it really feel closed in, make it feel special, and give it that medieval flair that you can find in, Victorian Europe as they're transitioning from, this sort of historical medieval era into more of a turn of the century era that you can see in a lot of like more, I guess, quote unquote modern structures. It's a very transitory period in history between a lot of different, architectural styles and cultural styles. So that's why I decided to go through and try to mix in that medieval feeling. Now, heading up those inclines at the back, you can see we have a little boulevard right here with a fountain in front. And this structure right here is actually a conjoined shop. On the left-hand side, we have Marshall's Cobbler and we have Pecan's Atelier. Now, I decided that Marshall and Pecan are siblings and they run this joint shop together, which I think looks so cute. I am not going to show any interiors because I would like to keep that a secret for you guys if you want to tour the island, but we're actually going to go down the left here and we're going to just follow this boulevard. And right here, we have a faux building that I created. This building right here is supposed to be a pharmacy, which I honestly love. This was something that was a spur of the moment decision. I saw the medicine cabinet and I knew that I had to find some build to implement it with, so I just decided to make this little local pharmacy right here. Heading down the road, we have this river that you can walk along, and right here you can find a restaurant, and this restaurant is actually Nook's Cranny. I was originally wanting to keep Nook's as the little original shack design, but sadly it upgraded, so instead I decided to turn Nook's into a restaurant, and I could not be happier here. This is such a small area to decorate nooks in, but I feel like the smallness of it is what makes it so stunning. I tried to include a little outdoor dining area, and I just love this spot so much. Now, if we continue down this boulevard, you can find this little road of houses right here. Over here we have Olivia's home and we have 𝒷𝓊𝓃𝓃𝓎's home, and I just decided to make them neighbors. They don't have any professions or anything, but I like to think that Olivia used to be a ballet dancer and now she teaches ballet. Her home is decorated as a ballet studio, and 𝒷𝓊𝓃𝓎, on the other hand, is an up-and-coming concert violinist, which I love so much. Her mentor is Lionel, who is teaching her. He's a composer, so we'll go take a look at his little private drive in just a moment. But their house just kind of borders this river area right here. If we go up and take this incline, this is where we can find Lionel's house. Now, I decided to give Lionel a bit of a fancier home with his own private drive that kind of has more of a mansion feel, because to me, Lionel just screams generational wealth, so I decided to give him his own little private mansion, and his home is just decorated to be a very bougie library setup, because it's kind of how I feel like his home should be decorated. But he just has this little forested area off to the side here. The forest on this side you cannot get to because it's mostly just supposed to be filler, but that leads to Eric's house technically. Now we are actually going to take this little bridge right here, and this is going to bring us to my house. This is a spot that I did not feature in a speed build, and that's because this is such a tiny area, but I knew that I wanted my house to be a inn or a tavern, and I have a little horse stable off to the side here. Look at this little party of people hanging out down there. But this is my house technically. I decided to build it out to be an inn, and I am so proud of how this build turned out. It was such a small area. I was struggling really hard with figuring out how to decorate it, but I think it looks so cool. If you do not follow me over on Instagram, I do post some edited pictures of this island, and this setup is one of my favorites. You can check me out at 𝒷𝓊𝓃𝓃𝓎 over on Instagram. I would love to see you over there and give you a little look at these different pictures, but this is the inn that I have built on the island. Alright, so we are back in front of Pecan and Marshall's home, so we are going to head off to the side here actually, and I'm going to go straight down before we go off to the side. Now down here we have Chops' home, and this is one that I love so much. I am so proud of this little area. I decided that Chops gave me the vibe of a little postmaster, so I decided to decorate his home to look like a post office, and I have always wanted to do a post office build. I had never done one before because I never really got the chance to back when these were really popular back in 2020, and I am so proud of how this area turned out. His interior is decorated as well to look like a post office, which I am so proud of, and I just cannot wait to see the pictures that you guys post of your visit on this island. I would love to be tagged in any posts that you guys make from bleakmoor, just so I can see them and come and support you. But if we actually head up here, you can see what I did with the Able sisters. I decided to turn Able's into a little antique store, and I love how this turned out. This was actually a build that my boyfriend suggested I do when I told him I was struggling with how to decorate Able sisters, and I just love how this area turned out. I decided to do much of the same design that I did over at Nook's Cranny, and I just loved using the medieval buildings in this area. I feel like it really makes everything come together, and I am just so happy with how this turned out. Now if we go along this bridge right here, we are actually going to go down where this little angled signpost is telling us to go, and this is going to bring us down to a very special area that I am just blown away by. I love how this entire spot turned out. We're going to keep heading down these little pathways, and we are going to find this structure that is built along this little pond. And if we go underneath this arch over here, you can find that we are now at the abandoned church and churchyard. Now, once again, this is one of those builds that I knew I wanted to have ever since I planned out this island, and it exceeds my expectations. Like, I did not expect it to look as good as it does, but here we are. This is probably my magnum opus. It is so beautiful. All credit goes to 𝒷𝓊𝓃𝓃𝓎 Creates for having the template for this church over on her YouTube channel, and I just love it so much. I think it fits the vibe of the island perfectly. I just think it's so, so cool. And in this speed build that I did for this area, I talked a bit about the backstory and the historical significance of Bleakmoor. And if you're new to the channel and this is the first Bleakmoor video that you're seeing, the backstory that I have for this island is that it's an island that takes place in the year 1816, which is known as the year without summer and was a time in history where after some very severe volcanic eruptions, the world was plunged into a miniature ice age, and 1816 is colloquially known as the year without summer because of how cold it was, that it kind of just caused civil unrest all throughout the world because of crops failing, resulting in famines, which resulted in disease outbreaks and riots and just so much chaos because it just never got warm that year. It stayed cold all year long. And so I like to think that Bleakmoor is a town that takes place during that time, which is why it is in a perpetual winter. And the storyline that I have for my villager and why she is here is that she was on her way to a place. I haven't quite decided where she was heading, but she got lost in the woods after her horse got spooked and bucked her, and she was injured and found herself in Bleakmoor. And in doing so, she is now stuck in the island because of the eternal blizzard that they have going on. And despite the villagers all being quite jaded and bitter because of the cold, they take her in and welcome her to the town, which I love so much. I had so much fun writing the story for this island. You can find some of my story posts over on my Instagram as well. I write all of them myself because, of course, I do love writing. I've mentioned it before. But here's an area that I have not shown you guys. This is one that I built off screen, and I actually meant to feature this in a speed build, but I lost the footage for it and couldn't bring myself to rebuild it a third time. But this is Fang's hunting cabin and I guess like soldier's lodge. I don't quite know how to explain it, but I like the idea that maybe Fang is a hunter or he is a former soldier, because at the time the Napoleonic Wars had just resolved themselves, so I like to think that maybe Fang was a soldier in those wars. And of course it's a bleak thing to think about, but this is an island named Bleakmoor, and I decided to give him this almost like training ground situation with the little scarecrows as, you know, training dummies, and I have a suit of armor and a fossil in the background. I just really love how this area turned out. I feel like it's so dark and so perfect for this island. If we head down this little brick path, you can actually see I have more beaches. I decided to decorate these beaches a bit more simply. I just used some wheat fields and some different little decayed items and giant vines. Off to the side here, we have another little spot with a lighthouse because I just love the lighthouse too much. I had to include another one. I also used these pirate cannons from the Gulliver items, and I have never used these items before, but this was the perfect little spot. This little tiny rock, I had no idea what to do with it, so I decided to layer these in front of this little shack. And we can actually take this little side path right here and head on up. Now, this is a build that might seem slightly out of place, but here I have a butterfly garden, and I just feel like I needed something that could break up the monotony of all the darkness in the forests. So this is kind of a little winter meadow. I used a lot of the different white butterfly options and moths that we have in-game to kind of blend in with these flowers, and I love how this spot turned out so, so much. I think it's so magical and so cool. This is another build that I did not showcase on the channel, and it was really just placing a lot of different flowers. But if we take this little side path right here, I have some stepping stones, and we can actually see a sunken waterfall. This is another one of those areas that is a bit of a surprise for you guys, and I love how this spot turned out. I definitely could have made it a little bit bigger and done some terraforming magic to make the glowing pond look a bit more integrated. I feel like the square looks a little off-putting where it's at, but I still think that this area is so gorgeous. I've never done a sunken waterfall before, and I would like to try and do another one in the future that is maybe a bit more grand, but I'm still really proud of this one since it was my first try ever doing one. But we can actually hop back. This was that first area that I took you to, the kind of like crossroads intersection. We could go in either direction. We went down. I'm actually going to bring you back over, and we are going to go visit Dobie and see the house that I gave him. So this will continue all the way down this little pathway. We're gonna come by the beach, And if we head on down here, you will see 𝒷𝓊𝓃𝓃𝓎's estate. And this is something that I featured recently on the channel as well. This area is going to look very fresh for you guys, but I did go through and update his home. I gave him a new interior. And once again, this is an area that I am super proud of. It exceeded my expectations so much from what I had originally had in mind for it. If we head off to the side here, you can see the little faux building that I made for him. I gave him a little shed to hold his painting supplies. He has an area to do some gardening and a spot to work on some writing. I really wanted to make sure that the areas at the back of the island really helped to kind of hide the hard ending line of the island and make it look like the island continues to go on for a while. I really like how this all turned out. We can head off to the side here and go and see 𝒷𝓊𝓃𝓃𝓎's little painting area. Now, this is something that I am so proud of. This spot right here is his little painting spot where he can sit, work on his paintings. And I think the reason I am most proud of this area is because the painting actually matches what I built in the background, which I just think is so cool. I don't know why. I'm just like, little details like that make me so happy and so proud of what I've built. But we're actually going to go and investigate this little beach down here. There's nothing too crazy going on, just a lot more wheat fields. And then if we continue heading down, you can see I created another little rocky outcropping area. And this is once again just to integrate it to the rocks that the beaches already have. But we are actually going to head back and I will meet you in just a moment. All right, so we are back at the incline in front of 𝒷𝓊𝓃𝓃𝓎's home and we are going to head to the left here and take this little suspension bridge. I think it's so cute when the bridges are super tiny like this, but we are going to go and visit 𝒷𝓊𝓃𝓃𝓎 in her apothecary cottage. So this is another one that I featured in the final build for the island, and I already went through and updated her exterior. Her interior is done as well, and this is supposed to be 𝒷𝓃𝓃𝓎's apothecary cottage. My idea for 𝒷𝓃𝓃𝓎 was that she is a more holistic healer who likes to use the natural landscape and the herbs and vegetation that bleakmoor offers to give some medicinal remedies to the people of the town. But when the local pharmacy moved in and opened up shop, she was kind of run out of town due to some bad rumors, and now she lives out here in nature next to 𝒷𝓊𝓃𝓃𝓎, who is her best friend, and they like to spend time together having philosophical debates, discussing literature and art, and she creates a lot of home remedies for him because he is a bit older, and so he has a harder time with things like his joints and is more susceptible to smaller, colds and flus because of the winter season. Now, I also gave her her own little shed. I like to think that this is like a little dry cellar where she likes to keep her herbs that she has collected. And if we head on up here, you can see that she has this gate situation that's supposed to separate her home from the woodlands beyond. She also has a little outdoor kitchen where she can prepare her herbs, as well as a sauna for herself. Now, another little secret area that we have on the island you can actually find by going down this little pathway. And as you can see, I have a lot of vines that are next to the cliffs over here. This one has one of those dirt paths though, so you're going to take this one up to the 3rd tier, and we're going to take this pathway in a area that I built off screen. I filled this area in to be a little bit of a forest, and if we keep heading, I have another little lookout surprise for you guys. So if you hop over this little bench right here, you can find that we have the lake at bleakmoor. And this is one of those spots that, once again, I am blown away at how this area turned out. I love the dimension, I love the layering, I love the depth. I feel like it really makes the island feel like it goes on forever. And off to the side is where you can actually find the moorlands, which I am just, once again, so blown away with how this area turned out. I think it looks so cool, and I cannot wait to see the pictures that you guys take in this area. Alrighty, my friends, that is everything for the island tour of bleakmoor. I really hope that you guys enjoyed watching this island get built from start to finish. I know that there was a lot that I didn't feature on the channel itself in speed builds, but regardless, I am so thankful for you guys sticking with me while I worked on this island. It was so out of my wheelhouse that there was so many times that I contemplated if this island was even worth finishing, and I am so glad that you guys supported me and urged me to to keep going because the end result of this island is something that I am so incredibly proud of. I can't wait to hear down below what your favorite spot was. Be sure to comment and let me know what your favorite area was that you saw on the island. And this is just a little reminder to you guys that burnout is totally natural. It's totally okay, and just know that I dealt with it with this island and with every other island I've worked on. And to just give yourself some patience, give yourself some grace, step back if you need to, and kind of just reform your thoughts. Maybe play a different game for a little bit and then jump back into Animal Crossing. And I can assure you that the creativity will be there. Once again, thank you all so much for joining me on this really fun wintry adventure. I cannot wait to get started on our next island. So if you're excited for springtime, be sure to keep your eyes on the channel and look out for my planning video, which will be coming out next week for our spring island, which I am super excited for. This is one that you all voted for on my community tab. So be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell to get notified so that way you can be notified of when we start this new adventure. Of course, leave a like on the video if you did enjoy. And for those of you who may not know, I have channel memberships. If you would like to help support me and the content that I create, you can hit the join button down below and become a baby bunny today. Huge thank you to all of my current members. You're all so amazing. I appreciate all the support that you give me, and thank you for simply just watching the video, coming along with the ride, and I cannot wait to see you in the next video.